Welcome back to the channel, and thank you for being here. Today, I'm sharing a deeply personal story, one that changed the way I see family, trust, and loyalty. This isn't easy to talk about, but it's important to tell it exactly as it happened. Please stay with me until the end.
I didn't even open it at first. I set it on the island and stared at it while my phone buzzed with a calendar alert reminding me about a lunch meeting with a client. A good client, the kind that paid on time, the kind that made me think, finally, I'm okay. I'm actually okay. Then I saw the return address, a downtown law firm with mirrored windows and a name in block letters that screamed money. My stomach dropped before my brain caught up, because I knew that firm. Everyone in my family did. They were my father's attorneys. I slit the envelope with a butter knife. Inside were papers so crisp they practically crackled. The first page had my full legal name typed in bold, and under it, Notice of Civil Action. I read it once, twice, a third time, slower, like maybe the words would rearrange themselves into something less insane. Plaintiff, Robert H. Collins, my father. Defendant, me. The phrase that punched the air out of my lungs was buried halfway down the page. Seeking restitution for funds misused, damages incurred, and declaratory relief regarding the defendant's pattern of living beyond her means. I laughed, out loud. It came out sharp and hysterical, echoing in my empty kitchen. Living beyond my means? That was what he was suing me for? Not theft, not fraud, not breach of contract. Living beyond my means. I sank into one of the bar stools and flipped through the pages, heart hammering harder with every paragraph. Allegations about loans I supposedly never repaid, claims that he'd supported my lifestyle long after I'd left home, that I'd misrepresented my income to family members, that I damaged his financial standing by defaulting on private agreements I had never signed. Amounts circled in neat black ink. 6 figures. I felt heat crawl up my neck. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my father's name on the screen. Dad. I didn't answer. It rang until voicemail. Then it rang again. I answered on the third call, my voice already shaking. "What the hell is this?" I said before he could speak. His voice came through calm, too calm, the voice he used with bankers and contractors and waiters who messed up his order. "Good morning to you too, Claire. I sued you." A pause. "We filed a complaint, yes." "You sued me," I repeated, louder, like volume could make it less real. "You forced my hand," he said. "I warned you." "When?" "When you kept pretending you were some self-made success story while I was still covering your shortfalls." My fingers curled around the phone. "I haven't taken a dime from you in 3 years. That's not what my records say." "What records?" "Loans, assistance, transfers. I paid those back." "Some," he said. "Others you ignored." "That's a lie." He sighed, slow and theatrical. "Claire, you can't live in a $500,000 townhouse, drive that car, and expect people not to ask questions. It's not $500,000. Close enough. I paid for it." "With what?" "My job. You freelance. I own my firm. You started it with my money. I paid that back too. After I chased you for months." My chest felt tight, like someone had wrapped wire around it. "This is insane," I said. "You can't sue your daughter because you don't like her budget." "You can if my daughter owes me money and refuses to acknowledge it." "I don't owe you anything." "That's for the court to decide." There it was. Court. The word felt huge and cold. "You're really doing this," I whispered. "I didn't raise you to be irresponsible," he said. "You want to play adult, you get adult consequences." I stared at the sunlight on the floor, suddenly too bright. "You could have talked to me," I said. "I tried." "No, you lectured me." "I asked for transparency. You asked for control." His tone sharpened. "Watch how you speak to me."
"Watch how you sue me," I shot back. Silence stretched between us.
Then he said, almost gently, "You should get a lawyer," and hung up. I sat there for a long time with the phone in my lap, the lawsuit papers spread out in front of me like an autopsy report. My father had always been complicated. He was the kind of man who paid for private school and then reminded you of it every Thanksgiving, the kind who framed generosity as investment, who talked about family the same way he talked about portfolios, something to manage, something that needed oversight. When I moved out at 23, he told me I'd be back in 6 months. When I didn't come back, he started offering help. Cash for a deposit, money for equipment, a bridge loan here, a short-term advance there. I'd taken some of it. I'd paid it back, every dollar I could prove. And now he was dragging me into court over the rest. I called my best friend, Jenna. She answered halfway through the first ring. "You okay?" "No." "What happened?" "My dad sued me." "I'm sorry, what?" "I'm being sued by my own father." I could hear her shifting, probably sitting up in bed. "For what?" "For living beyond my means." She let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a choke. "That's not even a thing." "It is when you're my father." "Do you owe him money?" "No." "Like, actually no?" "No." "Okay," she said slowly. "Okay, breathe. We get you a lawyer." "He already has one, a big one." "Then we get you a bigger one." I stared at the papers again. "I don't have big law money." "You have savings." "Not lawsuit against my own father's savings." There was a pause. "How bad?" "6 figures." "Oh my God." "And that's just what he's claiming I owe, not damages." Jenna swore softly. "He's trying to scare you." "It's working." I hung up and spent the rest of the morning canceling my meetings, unable to focus long enough to string an email together without rereading it 5 times. By noon, I was Googling civil litigation attorneys and trying not to cry. By 3, I was sitting across from a woman named Marisol Vega in a glass-walled office that smelled faintly like lemon cleaner and expensive coffee. She skimmed the papers, red pen tapping against her notepad. "Your father's firm is aggressive," she said. I noticed. "He's alleging informal loans with no written contracts. So that means he has to prove them. And if he can, then we fight the numbers, the timeline, the narrative." "Narrative?" She looked up at me. "Court is storytelling, Miss Collins. Whoever tells the more believable story usually wins." My stomach flipped. "What's his story?" "That you're reckless with money, dependent and ungrateful." I swallowed. "What's mine?" "That you're independent, successful, and being targeted for reasons unrelated to debt." "Like what?" Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Family dynamics." I signed the retainer with a hand that felt numb. Walking out of her office, I checked my bank app without meaning to. My balance stared back at me, suddenly looking smaller than it had that morning. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak in the townhouse sounded like a bailiff at the door. I kept replaying my father's voice in my head. "You should get a lawyer." I lay in bed scrolling old emails, bank transfers, Venmo notes, screenshots of texts where he'd said things like, "Don't worry about it, pay me back when you can." When you can, not "here's a promissory note," not "this is legally binding." At 2:17 a.m., I found a transfer from 2 years ago for $25,000. Memo line, equipment. I'd paid him back in 3 installments. But I couldn't find the last receipt. My chest tightened. I texted him. "Did you cash the 3rd repayment for the equipment loan? The $7,800 one?" 3 dots appeared. Then vanished. Then appeared again. No reply. I threw my phone onto the pillow and stared at the ceiling until dawn. 2 days later, the gossip started. My aunt called first. "I heard you and your father are having disagreements." I closed my eyes. He sued me. A sharp inhale. Well, I'm sure there are two sides. Of course there were. My cousin texted asking if everything was okay. An old family friend messaged me on Facebook with a sad face emoji and nothing else. My father was talking. He was telling his story. By Friday, I got an email from one of my smaller clients saying they were pausing projects pending internal review. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Internal review of what? Me. The thought made my skin crawl. I called Marisol. He's poisoning my reputation. She exhaled. He might be, or people are nervous about litigation. It happens. He's doing this on purpose. Probably. What can we do? For now, document everything. That weekend, I drove past my parents' house without meaning to. Big, colonial, circular driveway, manicured hedges like green walls. My childhood home. Lights glowed in the living room. For a second, I imagined walking up to the door and pounding on it. What are you doing? Then I drove away. The following week, my father's attorneys filed an amended complaint. They added a line about an anonymous benefactor. I stared at the paragraph on my screen in Marisol's office while she read over my shoulder. Funded by an undisclosed third party whose financial involvement in the defendant's lifestyle raises further questions. What the hell does that mean? I asked. Marisol frowned. It means he's suggesting someone else is bankrolling you. I don't have a sugar daddy. She gave me a look that said she knew that wasn't what I meant. This is fishing, she said. They're trying to widen the net. Can they do that? They can try. My phone buzzed. Jenna. Did you see the filing? I typed back. I'm literally looking at it. Jenna. Anonymous backer? Are you secretly a mob boss? I almost laughed. Almost. Because the truth was, there was one person who had quietly invested in my firm 2 years ago. $400,000. No publicity, no announcement. Just a wired transfer and a simple contract. I hadn't told my family. Not because it was shady, because it was none of their business, and because I knew exactly how my father would react. I stared at the screen while Marisol kept talking. They'll probably subpoena your financials. My ears rang. And any major investors. My mouth went dry. Especially if they think someone is propping you up. I interrupted. What if they find one? She looked at me. Did someone? I hesitated. Just a second. Long enough for her to notice. Yes, I said. An investor. I didn't drive home after that meeting. I sat in my car in Marisol's parking garage with the engine off, staring at the concrete wall in front of me like it might start talking back if I concentrated hard enough. My phone lay face up on the passenger seat, dark and innocent looking, holding 1,000 things I suddenly wished I'd deleted. Emails, contracts, bank statements, texts from 2 years ago when I was desperate and thrilled and terrified all at once. $400,000. I'd told myself it was clean because it was clean. Private equity, minority stake, airtight paperwork. No family involvement, no favors, no strings except performance benchmarks and quarterly updates. But my father didn't care about clean. He cared about leverage. I finally drove home, hands clenched so tight on the steering wheel my knuckles ached. Every car behind me felt like it was following. Every red light felt too long. Inside the townhouse, I locked the door out of pure instinct and slid down against it, the cool wood pressing into my back. I opened my laptop, typed the investor's name, then stopped. No, not name. Alias. because even in my own files, that's what they were. Stonebridge Holdings LLC, which told you absolutely nothing. I pulled up the original agreement, scrolling through pages of legal language until my eyes blurred. Equity percentage, non-controlling interest, no voting rights, confidentiality clause. Confidentiality clause. There it was. Both parties agree to maintain strict confidentiality regarding the identity of the investor. I exhaled slowly. Okay, that was something. Then my phone rang. Dad. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. I didn't answer. A text came through seconds later. We need to talk. I stared at the words until they went fuzzy. I typed back, have your lawyers talk to mine. 3 dots. Then, don't be dramatic. I laughed, short and bitter, and threw the phone onto the couch. That night, I dreamed I was back in my childhood bedroom, posters peeling off the walls, my father standing in the doorway holding a calculator instead of a face. Every time he punched numbers into it, my floorboards cracked a little more. I woke up before dawn, heart racing, and checked my email. Nothing, which somehow felt worse. By mid-morning, Marisol forwarded me a notice. Subpoena request filed. Pending court approval. They wanted bank statements, 3 years' worth, investment records, corporate ownership structures, loan agreements. My stomach twisted. I called her immediately. They're moving fast, I said. They are, she agreed. Can they really get all of that? Most of it, yes. What about the investor identity? They'll argue it's relevant. And the judge will decide. I paced my living room, stepping over a pile of unopened mail. My dad knows exactly what he's doing. Yes, she said. And we respond carefully. I don't want them dragging Stonebridge into this. They might not have a choice. I stopped pacing. What do you mean, might not? If the court compels disclosure, we either comply or fight it. And fighting it costs time and money. I shut my eyes. Money, of course. After I hung up, I called Jenna. She didn't even say hello. He's escalating. I said, he's hunting. For what? For proof that I'm lying. You're not. He doesn't care. She was quiet for a second. Who's the investor? I hesitated, then told her. She whistled softly. Damn. Don't say it like that. I mean, damn, that's impressive. It's also apparently a problem. Why didn't you tell your family? I stared at the window, at the reflection of my own face looking thinner than I remembered. Because my dad would have tried to meet them, and charm them, or intimidate them, or figure out how to make them his.
Yes.
Jenna sighed. Okay, so what's worst case? He convinces the court I'm being secretly funded and paints me as some spoiled trust fund fraud. And best case? He looks petty and obsessed. Which one are we closer to? I didn't answer. That afternoon, my father's attorney emailed Marisol directly. Professional, polite, deadly. They requested early mediation. Marisol read it out loud over speaker while I sat on the edge of my desk chair. He wants to talk, I said. He wants to see how you react. I want to scream. She smiled thinly. Don't. Silence is power. Feels like weakness. Feels that way because you're not used to being attacked. 2 hours later, another email came in. This one wasn't to Marisol. It was to me, from my father. Subject, Claire. No punctuation. No warmth. Just my name. I opened it even though I knew I shouldn't. You can end this quickly if you're honest about where your money is coming from. I'm not trying to ruin you. I'm trying to protect myself. I read it 3 times. Protect himself. From me. I forwarded it to Marisol. She replied 1 minute later, do not respond. So I didn't. That evening, I went through every transaction I'd made in the last 3 years, dumping spreadsheets onto my desktop, color-coding deposits and withdrawals like my life depended on conditional formatting, which it kind of did. Around midnight, I found something that made my throat go dry. 6 months ago, a wire transfer into my personal account, $12,000 from Stonebridge. I frowned. That wasn't normal. Stonebridge invested in my company, not me. I clicked into it. Memo, reimbursement, conference advance. I remembered that. I'd paid for a vendor conference up front when my corporate card limit maxed out. My CFO, technically a glorified bookkeeper named Owen, had reimbursed me through Stonebridge instead of payroll because of some internal timing thing. Totally legitimate, documented. I pulled the invoice. Found it. Okay. Still, I added a sticky note to my desktop that said, "Ask Owen about this," in all caps. The next morning, I walked into my office feeling like every employee could somehow smell the lawsuit on me. Owen was already there, hunched over his laptop. I closed the door behind me. "Did Stonebridge ever reimburse me directly?" He blinked. "Yeah, once or twice. Why?" "For what?" "Conference stuff, travel advances. You were floating cash." "Is it in the books?" "Yes," he said immediately. "Everything is." "Clean?" "Claire, I don't do dirty." I exhaled. "Good." He tilted his head. "Are we okay?" "We're complicated right now." He nodded slowly. "Litigation complicated?" My stomach tightened. "How did you—" "I got an email from legal asking for expense documentation from 2 years ago." I froze. "My father's lawyers?" He shrugged. "Didn't recognize the firm, but yeah. They contacted you directly?" "Through our general inbox." I swore under my breath. "They're casting a wide net. They're trying to spook people." "Well," Owen added gently, "it's working a little." I straightened. "Listen to me," I said. "We haven't done anything wrong." "I know, and if anyone asks, we comply through counsel." "Exactly." He watched me for a second. "Are you okay?" "No," I said honestly. He nodded like he respected that. That afternoon, Marisol called. "They've requested a deposition." My heart thudded. "Of who?" "You." "Already?" "They're pushing." "When?" 2 weeks. 2 weeks to prepare to sit in a room while my father's attorneys dissected my finances under oath. 2 weeks to pretend my hands didn't shake. That night, my mother called, which was worse. She never